been the best group we've ever had. What a great job they've done. Thank you. All right, thanks, ladies. All right, we have one thing that we'd like to do before we get into the induction of our 2015 class. We have a special presentation. As all of you know, this past year we sadly lost a really beloved individual at New Richmond to a terrible accident. He was also our men's swim coach and was an official for years and years. And you know, I was with Joe Midler a lot, especially on Friday nights, because he was awesome to me and came down and opened up. And him and Leanne Boxler for years down at the concession stand. And when Leanne decided to retire because I took over, she didn't like me and she left. Joe he was always there. Every Friday before I ever got down there, he had the hot dogs on, the $300 in his apron, and he had brats down there for some of the special people that showed up early, and he took care of everything. And he took that same diligence with him as an official for years. And tonight, a group of his officials association has came and would like to make a presentation to the Midler family. Pat Lunsford, and I don't know who else is over here, but Pat's going to come up with it.
Another one's coming in right now. Come on up, Phil. Good timing. Thank you very much, Doug. Joe and Judy, great members of the Southwest Ohio Swimming Officials Association. There are two other members that are with us tonight, Kathy Kirstein and Bill Meredith. They came also for us to make this presentation. And we never saw Joe without Judy or Judy without Joe. They were always at the meetings, sat in the same chairs in the meetings over and over again. But if there wasn't something right with the rules, Joe usually would bring it up. And that happened a number of times. So the Officials Association wanted to try to do something that the Midler family would like to be a memorial for Joe. And we're getting an aluminum plaque made for the swimming pool area. I just have a rendition of it right now, but it will be aluminum and mounted at a place of their choice in the pool area. And we're going to also make a couple of copies of this for family members as well. So I wanted to present this to Judy tonight, and know that the swimming officials are behind you all the way, and the family as well. Thank you. Judy wants me to read what's on here. I already have criticism because it didn't put brother on here, but it says Joseph F. Midler, December 14th, 1950 through April 18th, 2014. Beloved husband, father, coach, mentor, friend to all, foe to none, gone but never forgotten. That's the way we feel about it. Thank you.
Joyce? We did something during football season where we presented a picture of Joe Midler from down at the concession stand with his apron on. And if you know Joe, he always had a green apron on and had tons of stuff inside of that. It was always good for me because I was always short on ones, and he always took care of me. But we really wanted to frame his apron, but we couldn't find the apron. So finally, a little while ago, Denise found the apron, and we were able to do what we wanted to do with it that night. So we thought this would be the perfect night to do that, since Joe is in our Hall of Fame, and it just ties in with tonight. So this is what we ended up putting together for the Midler family, and this will hang in the concession stand down at the football field house. So this is Joe, and that is Joe every Friday. That was just him. So we're going to present this to the Midler family. Joe Midler, friend, coach, volunteer, Lion forever. All right, one more time. I know there's a lot of people that couldn't make it to the halftime today, so I just want to introduce our Hall of Fame members that are current Hall of Fame members. Elizabeth Schaff, will you please stand up? Liz is our first member, and as I always say, she truly, when you say that, you think they have to be really old. She just has preserved well. So Liz went in 1996. In 1998, John Hale, Patsy Wilson, and Tracy Hamilton, will you please stand? $1999, I don't think either one of them are still here. John Duncan, and, yeah, John's there, and Todd Benzinger had to go. 2000, Rick Crawford and Doug Ast. You have asked me about Doug Ast. As you know, Doug had fought cancer, and it was not very good about 3 or 4 years ago. And he got his quarterly report right before we played them a few weeks ago, right at Christmas. And his quarterly report came back that he is completely cancer-free. And it was He played today out in the alumni game. Looked great, so I was happy for him. 2003, Mr. Enos Pennington. Everybody in the world knows Enos Pennington. 2005, Tricia Payne. 2007, Terry Flam was here, and then Justin Fender. For you that don't know, Justin Fender's picture hangs in the gym on the State of Ohio plaque. He is one of our state champions in golf. Him and Ben Berg were our state champions. So. And also on 52, please don't try to read the sign, but there's a sign on 52 that says Justin Fender, state champion out there on that. 2008, Brian Benzinger, Kerry Hughes. 2010, Ralph Shepard, I know he had to leave. 2011, Greg Hawkins and Mr. Brian McMonigle. And for you that weren't here, Brian does such a great job with our alumni game. We had over 25 guys come back to play in the alumni game. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of them looked really good for how old they were. Some of them look like me, but that's the way it goes. 2012, Joe Hawkins, Todd Wells. 2014, John Duncan Jr. Did I miss anybody that came in later that I didn't get to see? Okay. All right, we'd like to get started. Our first presenter today will be Mr. David Hawkins Jr. and Brenda Hawkins, and they will be presenting for Dave Hawkins.
Good evening. Well, first I want to say, Doug, thanks to everybody who put this together tonight. I've been to a number of these, and it's always a wonderful occasion to get up here and see the great folks that come through New Richmond. I want to say thanks to New Richmond High School in general and the Hall of Fame Selection Committee as well. I'm very humbled and appreciative to be up here. I wish it would be under different circumstances and my dad could be giving the speech this evening, but that is not the case. A couple things. I know if my dad were to be up here, I was trying to figure out what it would be that he would say. He would not want me to, nor would he have talked about any of the things that are going to be listed on this plaque tonight. To him, that's who he was, and that's what he did. But I don't think that's what he would have wanted me to talk about. So one of the things I was really thinking of is why. I asked the question a lot. Why did my dad give these years of service to New Richmond, to the community? And at the end of the day, he loved New Richmond. He loved the kids. He loved the community. And I grew up only seeing that in him, that unselfish point of view to give time. Time is a precious commodity that it's tough to give, and he gave willingly and often. One of the things Sir Winston Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." So if you can measure a man's worth, my dad had a bountiful life, and he gave often. One of the things, this is a Sports Hall of Fame, and my dad's not up here in this for his athletic prowess, but when we look at volunteerism, and what that really means to him, there was a huge sports component. My dad gave a lot of time, but one of the things, he loved sports just as much as he loved the kids, but he didn't love sports because of the X's and O's. I'm sure everybody in this room, or a lot of people, will have memories of my dad talking about, the game, and not just the game that happened last night, but the game that happened 10 years ago and 20 years ago. He had a fantastic memory when it came to all of the sports. But sports for my dad was much more than just the competition. It was a metaphor for life. When you look at the way he viewed sports, and this is something I learned later in life through conversation, and I didn't see it when I was a young man, but it was really, sports was a bridge to success, from the classroom to the playing fields to the boardroom or whatever occupation he wanted to choose. And that's why he invested time in the school. He wasn't necessarily always the coach, he was a scorekeeper, he ran a clock, he did things like that, but it was his way to give back to the community. It was his way to help kids, to just be part of that, to be a cog in this great wheel that is student athletes and participation. So I really think that when he looked at volunteering, he was just trying to help kids. He was trying to help kids grow. He was trying to be a part of the program. And those are some of the things that I take away from my dad and what he did with the community. A couple memories I wanted to throw out there, and I'll be brief on this, but when I was in elementary school, some of my favorite memories of my dad now, and back then I didn't realize what he was doing, but he would take kids that lived in Moscow and maybe couldn't get to practices, and I can't tell you how many times we would be dropping 3 and 4 kids off and picking kids up. He wanted people to participate in sports because he felt it was very important. When I was in high school and I played on a team out in the west side of town, my dad, we had a lot of inner city youth on the team, and they couldn't get rides to practice. Their family wouldn't come to games, but he would make sure that they got home. He would give them bus money to make sure they got home. He would take them out to dinner at night after a practice or after a game to make sure they were fed. Those are some of the little memories I have of my dad that doesn't show up in necessarily the volunteering and some of the things that are going to be on this plaque for the Hall of Fame. And actually, one of my favorite memories, there's actually a picture of him with a 1994 varsity cheerleaders. And I can remember a couple of cheerleaders off that squad used to always rave about how he would buy them hot chocolate for when it was cold outside for football games. So it wasn't all just about the sports. It was about the cheerleaders, and he cared about the academics and if you were in the science Olympiad, things like that mattered to him and was part of that whole volunteering mentality. One of the things I wanted to do in closing, and I won't take any more time, but there was a passage that was actually given to me, and this is something that I don't think he's probably ever talked to anybody about, but he and I spoke about this a lot. When I was in 7th grade, actually another Hall of Fame member, Greg Hawkins, gave me my 7th grade playbook. And in the back of that playbook, there were 2 speeches. One was by Vince Lombardi, called What It Takes to Be Number One, and another one of the speeches was by Teddy Roosevelt, called The Man in the Arena, that was given in 1910. And it's one of those things, when I was in 7th grade, I brought this home, I read these things, I was really moved, and I talked to it with my dad. And over the years, I can't tell you how many times he and I referenced just some of those aspects that came out of the speech and what it meant to be a student athlete, what it meant to help students and really care about the school and the community. So I wanted to kind of finish and close with just reading a small excerpt from The Man in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The plaque. Dave Hawkins graduated from New Richmond High School in 1970 and played football, baseball, and wrestled for the Lions. An arm injury stopped the promising baseball career, but Dave's love for the game took him into the Major League Umpire School and his short career as an umpire in the Florida State League. Dave's heart was in his hometown, so he returned to New Richmond, where he married Brenda Hamilton in 1973, started a career with Cincinnati Bell, and began his 40-year dedication to New Richmond schools, where he served 22 years as a member of the Board of Education and 14 years as a Grant Career Center Board of Education. Dave's volunteer efforts included 27 years of operating the football scoreboard for freshman JV and varsity games, 26 years as the official scorer for New Richmond freshman JV and varsity basketball games, and many years as scoreboard operator and timer for league, district, and NR track meets. Dave also started the New Richmond Middle School Wrestling Tournament and served as tournament director for 12 years and scorer for 16 years. After his retirement from Cincinnati Bell, Dave joined the New Richmond LocalSportsRadio.com broadcast team and helped broadcast more than 60 New Richmond football, soccer, and girls basketball, softball, and baseball games. Dave was awarded the Friends of Athletics Award in 2014 by the Southwest District Athletic Board for his years of volunteer service to the New Richmond schools. I had an opportunity to be there when he got the Friends of Athletics Award, and the pride and joy on his face will stay with me the rest of my life. It is my privilege, my pride, and my joy to give this to the Hawkins family and honor Dave Hawkins. Next up will be the presenter for Mr. Eric McMonigle, and that is Coach Eric Colbert.
Thank you. To be inducted into the Hall of Fame is such a great honor. When Eric called me, I was actually on a bus in Orlando, Florida with my team, and on that bus, my wife reminded me that we have a game that night, so there was a conflict right off the bat with McNick High School. And I wanted to work this out. It was such an honor for me to be asked. And when I called Coach Tim Monahan at McNicholas and told him about the reason, he said, "Oh, you have to go. We'll work this out. We'll change the game." So we played this afternoon. Now, we beat him by 17, so I don't know if he still feels good about that. But it was, I thank him for me being able to be here tonight, because without him, since it was at McNicholas High School, I wouldn't be. How honored I feel that Eric asked me. all the great coaches that he's had here, I truly feel honored. How I met Eric, when I took the New Richmond job, that my wife encouraged me to take, because she had this group of young men, these young seniors, who she really just fell in love with. And she talked so highly about them. So she said, this is a special group, Eric. You're going to really like this group. So if you go for the job and you're fortunate enough to get it, she says, you're really going to like this group of young men that you have. Well, she was right, like she always is. So I first wanted to know about my team. I didn't have kind of an idea what I was going to get. So I called some of my coaching buddies in my coaching fraternity that played, against New Richmond and wanted to get some feedback from them. So they all said the same thing. They all said, wow, you get a coach Eric McMonigle. What a great player he is. And they were right about that too. I was familiar with the McMonigle name automatically, because when I was the head coach of Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, I brought a team here, and we played at New Richmond against another pretty good player, Brian McMonigle, who ended up, after scoring over 20 points and having 18 rebounds, sent us home not that happy as a coach. The mood was kind of bad, but he was a great player, and that's how I knew the McMonigle name. When I got offered, when I was accepted the job, I wanted to make sure that I met the team. So my first impressions of Eric. Eric was, he's a very physical presence automatically. I was told by many how great of an athlete he was. He was a three-sport athlete. As you read through, he's had a lot of athletic accomplishments and academic accomplishments. But he was real quiet. He didn't say a lot. He was, more of, I said, how's school going and how's things going? Fine, good, great, Didn't show a lot of emotion, but, when he played, oh, wow, that emotion came out on the court. In my coaching history, all the teams I've coached over my 20 years, the 05-06 team was one of my favorite teams ever that I coached. And the senior class had such a tight group. Nobody was envious of another player. They were all happy of Eric's accomplishments, of what he accomplished. And they were friends. They were truly friends. The senior class they all got along, on the court, off the court. And then there was the parents. The parents were such a supportive group. Probably the best I've ever had, which means a lot. All my coaches can say that means a lot, trust me. And that's where Gail and Tom come in. Gail McMonigle would thank me every game for being her son's coach. And I'm like, regardless of the outcome. So I would like to officially nominate her for the Hall of Fame for a parent, if I could. I'll do that today. But that is a blessing for coaches. When you don't get a call about playing time, you don't get a call about this or that, it's basically, thank you for coaching my son. And I always appreciate it. Actually, I'd love for you to be an altar team mom, but you have no affiliations. The only regret that I have in New Richmond is I only got to coach Eric 1 year. 1 year. Came in and I only got you for 1 year. I wish I had you more, I really do. He had double figures in every game that he played his senior year. And when you can count on that as a coach, what a blessing that is. Because you never know sometimes, consistency is a hard thing to accomplish. And I knew I was going to get double figures in points and rebounds out of Eric in every game he played. His senior year against Goshen on January 6, 2006, Eric scored his 1,000th point. When I got into the locker room, I talked to the team about what an accomplishment. And we lost the game. We lost to Goshen that night. Actually, we didn't play well at all. I think Eric was our leading scorer, and I think he had 14 or something like that. And I had the game ball. I already called Coach Wake and told him about what was going to happen and how Eric was going to get his 1,000th point. And I had in the locker room, I was getting ready to hand him the game ball. And and I handed him the game ball, and I said, you know, guys, regardless of what the outcome is tonight, Eric achieved something that very few players get a chance to achieve. He scored 1,000 points in his career. And he never even took any pride in scoring 1,000 points, because the fact was, we lost the game. That's what he cared about, which is something that's always going to stick with me. One of my favorite memories from his senior year is a home game that we played against Western Brown. Western Brown they were the league champs that year. They were the best team in the league. We played them here at home, and at halftime we were down over 20 points. I go into halftime. I guess I was a little upset, maybe, right? Gave him a little pep talk, tried to get a little bit of energy up for the second half. And they came out the second half and made one of the best comebacks of any team that I've ever been a part of. Eric had 29 points for the game, 23 points in the second half, and just pretty much took over the game, and we ended up winning in overtime. But before I say we won in overtime, I got to tell you the story. So, another of his teammates was a young man named Andre Higgins, who has a lot of personality. Eric's real quiet. How he plays his game is on the floor. He's very aggressive, but Andre is not so quiet. And in coaching, we all have strategies at the end of the games. We talk about foul versus not foul. Now, we fought the whole game to get back in this. And with a low clock, we ended up having a 3-point lead. So their coach, Garrett, calls a timeout. He's drawing something up, and since it's a low clock and we're up three, I decide, and I've always been this way, I want to foul. I want to foul. I want to put him at the free throw line. I want to do it. Something that I always thought passionate about. And Andre comes to me and he says, Coach, we're not fouling. Don't foul. Trust me, Coach. I got this. I got this. They're not going to score. Coach, I'm locking him up. It's over. He's not going to score. So, against what I really believe you should do as a coach, I decided, hey, I'm going to listen to my player. He's pumped up. We're going for it. So I said, all right, guys, man to man. I was like, let's tee him up. Come on, Andre, because we all knew where the ball was going to go to, right? So they inbound the ball. They go up. He makes a move, and he makes a three right in Andre's eye. Right at the horn. So now we're going overtime. So we come over, and I'm just staring at Andre the whole time. Just looking at him like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because in my mind, I'm mad because I'm thinking we should foul. Now, Andre, he looks me right in the eye, and he says to me, my bad. And I don't even know what to do. I'm just like, really? It's your bad? Yeah, I should have said that. So, all right. So everybody's upset right now. We're deflated. And then I get him in the huddle, and this man to my left, Eric McMonigle, says, hey guys, this is no big deal. We're going to win this game. It's cool as a cucumber. Nothing fazed me. And we go out, make some key free throws, make some key bucket, we win the game. And the other thing he did was with Andre. Andre's feeling like garbage right now. Coach is mad at him. And he pats Andre on the back and he says, get over it. We're fine. We're going to win this game. And that stuff sticks out in my mind. It really does. Eric is tonight going to be inducted into the Richmond Athletic and Academic Hall of Fame. His achievements speak for themselves. You can read about it. But when I truly think of Eric, when I truly think of the man to my left, I think, this guy who on the court was relentless in how he played. He was a physical presence. He took the ball to the basket. He was so aggressive on how he played. And his personality would never match exactly how he played on the court. But when I truly think of him, I think of a young man who cared about his teammates, who cared about his coaches, and especially cared about his family. That in itself, to me, is truly Hall of Fame. Eric McMonigle.
On the plaque for Eric McMonigle. Eric McMonigle is a 7-time first-team Southern Buckeye Conference All-Star whose athletic achievements in football, basketball, and baseball were matched in the classrooms at New Richmond High School. McMonigle, who was named Academic All-State in basketball in 2006, was a 4-time first-team All-SBAC selection in baseball, a 2-time All-SBAC selection in basketball, including being named Co-Player of the Year in 2005, and a first-team All-SBAC selection in 2004, and a Cincinnati Enquirer All-City selection in all 3 sports. In baseball, Eric was a member of 3 league and district championship teams in baseball and is a New Richmond career hitting leader with 163 hits, which included a 27-game hitting streak. He ranks in the top 5 in total bases, runs batted in, runs scored, doubles, and career batting average 480. In basketball, Eric ranks 3rd in career scoring with 1,152 points. He also is tied for 1st in 2-point field goals in a game with 15, 5th in 2-point field goals in a season with 150, and 1st in 2-point field goals for a career, as well as top 10 in field goal percentage and rebounds. He was an outstanding running back, kicker, and defender in football, and only an injury his senior year prevented him from being named first-team All-SBAC for a 2nd time. He owns a record for the longest field goal at 49 yards and career kickoff touchback record, which included a string of 19 in a row during his junior year. Eric attended the University of Kentucky after graduation and made the UK football team as a walk-on at linebacker and defensive end. And it is my privilege to give to you Eric McMonigle for the 2015 induction into the New Richmond Lions Sports Hall of Fame.
So first things first, my speech was actually typed, and in getting my daughter ready and myself, I forgot to print it out, so I just waited. First I wanted to thank Coach Coulter. It means the world that he could be here. Honestly, when I called him, I asked him, when I saw his schedule, it was open. But because Alter was in the playoffs football, they had to reschedule the game. So when he told me that they were playing on the 31st, I immediately was like, oh man, I guess I got to find another coach. But he was like, well, hold on, just wait it out a couple days. And he was able to get it moved. I think that speaks volumes for him, the kind of man that he is. He would do that, and the fact that he's respected enough that somebody would do that for him. So, and I think that also shows that how much he cares about his players past and present. I just really appreciate that. I wanted to say how much of an honor it is to be inducted with James, or Donnie Morrison, sorry, and Coach Moon. Coach Moon, I grew up watching play, or coach my brother. My brother had a very, very high regard for him, so it's definitely an honor to be inducted with him. And Dave Hawkins. As a player, you didn't really see Dave Hawkins. I knew him, I saw him, but you never really knew what he did. When I got the opportunity to coach for New Richmond, you really saw everything he did. He was everywhere and involved in everything. I wish as a player I would have realized the time and effort that he put in to New Richmond. So, I want to thank a couple other coaches. Coach Benzinger. You were actually my only 4-year tenured coach. You had a lot of faith in me as a freshman, faith that I didn't have in myself. You started me, and I really appreciated that. And I would not have the records I have in baseball without you, without that faith in me. So, Coach Reardon, football, and Todd Wells, always taking care of me in the, I don't know what room that was called, but that room. I was in there quite a bit. He was always working on me, and I was probably his most popular visitor. So a couple games that I remember. In baseball, unfortunately, I don't really remember many games. I had this pitcher named Dave Duncan. Some of you might have heard of him. Basically, when he pitched, I just sat there. And every game looked the same. It was just strikeout, strikeout, ground ball, strikeout, strikeout. So in center field, I just never got the ball. It was pretty much every game seems the same. So unfortunately, baseball, I don't really remember many games. Basketball, I do remember that Western Brown game. We always loved beating Western Brown. And I absolutely remember Drake draining that three in Andre's face. So I also remember my sophomore year, we were down at Goshen by 29 in the third quarter. Came back. I remember everybody had left. It was a playoff game. It was late. I mean, there was just family in the stands. No student sections, nothing. We came back, took it into overtime, and we won it in overtime. And then the next game we played Taft, who was the number 3 team in the state, and we were 8-13. And things just didn't look good. Nobody had faith in us, but we went in. Unfortunately, we lost, but we honestly, we had a chance to win the game. We were actually up 7 going into the fourth quarter, and I remember my mom told me she was actually walking by the locker room at halftime, and she could hear their coach screaming at them that they were letting this small little dinky school compete with them. Even though we did lose the game, just that experience was definitely incredible. So I want to thank my family, particularly my siblings right now. My 2 brothers growing up, watching them play. Brian, I don't really remember his games as much since I was a little bit younger. I know I was always there. I do remember a couple games against Hillsborough. Those games were always so intense. The stands were always packed. Brian was always tearing it up. Watching him play in college was definitely quite an experience. He tore it up at Claremont, and it was just somebody that I strive to be like in basketball. I mirrored my game off of him. I, of course, wanted to be better than him. I don't think I succeeded at that in basketball. It was pretty difficult to accomplish that. So, John, watching him, I remember a lot more of his games. I actually remember more of his games than my own. And just watching him football against Ross in the playoffs, their coach had actually said they weren't worried about John McMonigle. And he came in, I think he put like 240 yards on him, a couple touchdowns, returned a kickoff. So coach came over and apologized to him after that, so when they won the game. But that was just a really exciting game to watch. Seeing him in the playoffs, that experience, that excitement definitely made me strive for that. Unfortunately, didn't succeed, but it was something that I wanted. My sister was always there for me. I definitely don't remember when she played. I was much younger. But she was always very supportive. She was my best friend growing up. She was always there for me, protecting me from my brothers. We were really close, but we definitely, my mom does not like hearing the stories that happened when she was at work. Brian, I do forgive you for chasing me, pulling out the plug of the phone so I couldn't call mom and tell on you. Then locking me in the bathroom, taking the light bulbs out. I'm sure I deserved it. I was, as a 7-year-old. So I know you're just trying to toughen me up. We were an extremely close family, and that's because of my parents. Most of you know that they are incredible. And I appreciate all the love, support, and teachings that they gave us in life. We were close because of the environment that they created. We were actually so close that my brother wanted to marry my sister. Brian, we still love So, I don't know much. I wasn't born, so you'll have to ask him about it. But that was all created because of them. What they've done in the school, they were just always around. As Coach Coulter talked, probably almost every coach loved them. I'm sure every single coach loved them as parents. And I just love the environment they created. And like I said, I don't have my text. This is all just going off of memory. So finally, I just wanted to talk about New Richmond. I think it's a great town. The great thing that I think is this isn't the only night that you see Hall of Famers, New Richmond Hall of Famers here at the games, or even just alumni. You're here every game. Maybe not every alumni, but there's always a few alumni sitting in the stands, going to the games, going to the football games, baseball games. And I just think that shows the kind of effect New Richmond has on its athletes. So it is an honor and a privilege to be inducted to the New Richmond Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric and Eric, I appreciate it. Next up is Joe Moon and presented by Mr. David Wilprice, and I hope I didn't butcher that last name.
Thank you, Doug. I've known Joe Moon for well over 40 years now as a very good friend. We played varsity basketball together at Anderson High School in 1980, my senior year, which was Joe's junior year. Joe's team in 1981 went on to be one of the best high school basketball teams to ever play at Anderson High School. They were ranked number 2 in the city, behind Elder. I graduated from high school with his wife, Pam. Joe and I were at each other's weddings. In fact, I was on the phone with Joe 18 years ago tonight, the night that Hannah was born, updating Joe on the New Richmond Loveland game. In my recollection, it was the only game that Joe ever missed as a coach at New Richmond. So by the way, happy birthday, Hannah, and go Cards. I tell my wife often that if I had a phone a friend for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Joe would be my guy who I'd call. So other than Pam and Hannah and his immediate family, I know Joe better than anyone. Doug's going to talk a little bit about Joe's accomplishments and his accolades and things like that as a coach here at New Richmond. But what I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight is about the friend, the coach, and the person that I know. The first word that comes to mind when I think of Joe is the word integrity. I always admired Joe for the fact that he never, and I mean never, used profanity or lost his full composure as a coach. I asked him one time, you know, how do you keep that composure? How do you not throw the 4-letter bombs out? And he says, and first off, I can't go to one of my son's 8th grade games with a couple of GDs flying around. So Joe says, you know, I want my players to be gentlemen, you know, off the court, but I want them to show intensity on the court, and I want them to show that integrity. So I said, he said, you know, if I expect that from my players, you know, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't expect that from myself. The second word that comes to mind when I think of Joe is the word motivator. Like Eric, I got a story from Goshen High School. New Richmond was down 19 or 20 points, I can't remember the year. And it was at halftime, and everybody was going to the locker room. All the kids were in the locker room, and Joe was walking over. I often stood by a doorway where I sat with Pam all the time at the games. So this time I happened to be standing right by the visiting locker room. And when I looked over, I saw Dave Hawkins hand Joe the scorebook. Joe was walking, who didn't look very happy at all. The team was playing horrible, no intensity. nothing. It was just, they were getting their butts handed to them. So Joe then comes over and he says, Dayball, as he calls me, he says, Thomas has 15 points. Harris has 14 points. Thomas has 12. They've got 10 guys at Goshen tonight that scored points in the first half. He says, heck, even the tuba players come out of the pep band and he got a bucket. So I said, as a friend, I said, well, just chip away, hang in there, all the different lingos that you would say for a team that is down 19, 20 points. Well, he starts walking the locker room and he looks back at me and he goes, oh, we will play better. I have no idea what Joe said in that locker room at halftime, but they came out with a sense of urgency. They played a lot of intensity. They played with the heart of the line, and they won that game by 5 points. So Joe's walking back. The team's all fired up. Everybody's excited. High fives everybody. Running into the locker room. Joe has this big grin on his face. He winks at me, gives me a bump, and then walks into the locker room. All I kept thinking was maybe Goshen needed that tuba player for the second half. But somewhere in that locker room, he motivated that team. They responded. They got the win, and they had a nice bus ride home. So the last word that comes to my mind is the word prepared. Joe and I, we often scouted games together. He would pick me up. He'd have his road pops, as he would call them, in his cup holder. He'd have a caffeine-free Diet Mountain Dew and a Sunkist, and nothing for me. After scouting the game, Joe would have a game plan together to give his team the best chance to win. Sometimes he knew Richmond would be successful, and there's other times he knew that he had his hands full. But no matter what, his team would step on the court, knowing the game plan that he put in place, and that he was never concerned, or they never knew whether he had problems or a concern with a potential outcome. So based on his scouting and his preparation and his game plan, I knew Joe would have his team always ready to play, whether they won or they lost. When it was all said and done, I went to about over 80 to 90% of the games while Joe was coaching basketball. The routine was I'd pick Pam up about 5:30, 6 o'clock. We'd drive out to schools such as Felicity, Hillsborough, Georgetown, and I could still remember that old gym at Williamsburg. Routes 125, 32, 50, and we'd just go. By the end of Joe's tenure, I got to know who had the best pep bands and who served the best popcorns at the concession stand. I became a New Richmond basketball junkie, but I was an even bigger Joe Moon fan. By the way, New Richmond always had the best pep band, and Felicity by far had the best popcorn, for those that want to know. Big brown bag about this size, filled to the brim, and they only sold it for $1, so keep that in mind. All seriousness, I could go on and on. I could tell 100 stories. I remember our nights going to the ground round and Fridays with Dave Hawkins. Remember Super Saturdays in Dayton, the name game, and especially our trips that we took to Columbus for the state tournaments. Appreciate it, and thank you for taking me along on this ride. So on behalf of everyone here tonight, his family, his friends, his past coaches and past players, his daughter Hannah, and especially his wife Pam, I'm very honored and extremely proud to introduce my very good friend to the 2015 the Richmond Hall of Fame, Joe Moon.
During his 16 years as a soccer and basketball coach at New Richmond High School, Joe Moon didn't just produce winning teams, but winning programs that resulted in 4 league soccer championships and a league championship in basketball in 1995. Moon took over a soccer program that had won only 10 games in the previous 3 seasons and developed consistent double-digit winning seasons. Moon's 7-year career was 66, 40, and 21, but 25 of those losses came in his first 2 seasons when there was no feeder program for varsity soccer. New Richmond went 13, 2, and 4 in Moon's 3rd season to start a string of 6 straight double-digit winning seasons and 4 league titles. Moon was named League Coach of the Year 4 times and was the 1989 Ohio High School Soccer Coaches Association East Division II Coach of the Year. Also in 1989, Coach Moon was selected to coach the East team by the SWOSSCA East-West All-Star Game. Moon stepped down from soccer coaching after an undefeated 1993 season, 12-0-4, to concentrate on his new varsity basketball coaching duties. Moon produced consistent winning teams during his 9 years as varsity basketball coach, including 2 15-win seasons, including 1995 when his team gave New Richmond the only league title over a 27-year span. In 1994-95, Moon was named AP Southwest District Coach of the Year in Division II, Cincinnati Post Coach of the Year, as well as SBAC Coach of the Year. Coach Moon was also selected to coach the SBAC Seniors in the Seniors Festival Basketball Tournament in 1996-97 and the East Region team as the Seniors Festival Basketball Tournament in 97-98. Moon finished his coaching career as head men's basketball coach at UC Claremont College in 2001 and 2002. And I think it's kind of unique that he won the league title, and 27 years later, Brian McMonigle, one of his players, won the next league title. I give you, for induction into the Lions Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Joe Moon.
Doug just said I look a little younger in that picture, and I was like, who decided on that picture? Anyway, one of the things about getting older is reading glasses. Ron Bird, Ron Reed, Bob McInturf, Jim Slater, Greg Hawkins, Bob Tucker, Denny Hopewell, Todd Wells, Brooks Parsons, Brian Benzinger, Pat Hill, and Warren McConnell. I think I hit them all. To be included as a member of this group of outstanding coaches is both humbling and overwhelming. All these coaches, the ones that I know, coach with class, character, and integrity. And I'm honored to be a part of this collection of coaches. When I started coaching, I would have only dreamed that I would ever be honored in such a way as being inducted into a Hall of Fame. The fact that I'm being inducted into the New Richmond Hall of Fame has special meaning because I truly love the people, the school, and the village of New Richmond. At one point, I wanted to be the Ron Bird of New Richmond basketball. However, things happen for a reason, and I'm now a school administrator at a place where I believe I was destined to be, Live Oaks Career Development Campus. I want to thank the most outstanding group of assistant coaches that any coach could ever hope for. Shannon Graves, Jeff Durham, Andrew Helton, Chad Gronis, John Calebs, the Coach K of 8th grade basketball with over 450 wins. That deserves it. Ray Forsey, Alan Slater, Adam Bird, and Brian Benzinger. These coaches and I worked so well together to build young boys into young men. Each was a great teacher of the game and motivated the players to always give their best. Because of these coaches and the players that they developed, I am receiving this tremendous honor. Our goal each year was to play hard, to have fun, and to win. We didn't win them all, but the players always played hard, and I believe we always had fun. I also want to thank Travis Wensgard. He was my soccer assistant coach. He played for me for 2 years and then joined me as an assistant coach and did a truly outstanding job as a JV and varsity assistant. The bond that teammates form was one of the main reasons I got into coaching and was a guiding principle in my philosophy. Years later, a lot of years now, I'm still great friends with many of my high school teammates, as evidenced by my presenter, Mr. David Woprice, or as I call him, Dave Ball. Dave Ball was truly an outstanding high school point guard whom I enjoyed watching play. He played, I watched. During my time in New Richmond, he probably attended more high school basketball games than any other fan, whether it be a New Richmond game or a district, regional, or state tournament game. He was always there for me. After games, we'd break down what had gone right or wrong and what the team needed to do to be successful the next time. That is what I wanted to instill in my players, and based on my experience on Facebook, that bond, that friendship, my players have kept their bond strong and are friends to this day. I want to thank Jeff Zink, who I just recently found out was the one that I believe nominated me for this honor. Jeff and I have been friends for, again, many, many years. I won't say how many. But I truly appreciate him nominating me for this. I want to thank the 4 athletic directors who I had the pleasure to work with during my time at New Richmond. Cy Richardson. A lot of you probably don't remember Cy was the athletic director here. Mark Dobrich, Bob Payne, and Pat Hill. I always appreciated the difficult job that they had in balancing the many different viewpoints that they had to deal with. These 4 always stressed to win with class and to lose with grace. I also want to thank Doug Foote. He's continued that excellent tradition of ADs, and I want to thank him for all that he has done for tonight. I want to thank a special assistant coach. Dave Hawkins was our official scorekeeper. However, he was much more than that. He was not only a great person, but he was a great friend, advisor, and assistant coach. Dave probably saved my job a number of times, but the time I remember most was when I had an upset parent that confronted me in the middle of the after a JV game in the middle of a crowded gym. I think I wanted to go spider monkey on the parent, and luckily Dave was sitting at the scores table, and I looked at him, and he gave me one of these. Calm down. Just calm down. And I can still see him advising me that now is not the right time for a confrontation. One of my fondest memories of Dave was that he always had his red and his black pen, one for the first half, one for the second, and his scorebooks were always impeccable. I mean, just unbelievable. For all the great advice and friendship that Dave gave me, I was truly blessed. I know he was extremely proud of his family, his wife Brenda, son David, and daughter Amy, and he's remembered fondly, and he will be missed. I want to thank all of my basketball and soccer players because with great players, I was transformed into a good coach. I would like to name all of my players, however, I know our time is limited. I would like to mention Johnny Duncan, Brian McMonigle, Ben Bird, Matt Armbruster, Matt Godsey, Doug Ast, John McMonigle, and Justin Fender, since all of them are former players and also Hall of Fame members. Another player I'd like to point out, Ryan Walriven, was always one of my favorites. He and I were talking tonight in the gym about the time at Felicity, and I kid you not, the first quarter of a game, he hit like 7 straight three-point shots. I'm sure the people who were there remember. Soccer players such as Brent Gilman, Chris Highbrook, Mike Geis, the Sanders brothers, David, Tom, and Brian. A couple others that are here tonight, Jamie Gilbert and Thad Wells, are the reason that we won 66 games in 8 years and 4 league championships. What a great group of athletes who have grown up to become even better men. The parents are to be commended for raising these awesome young men, but I would like to think that high school athletics played a part in their growth into the men that they have become. My fondest memory I have from my basketball coaching career, everybody probably remembers the shot that Johnny Duncan made at Hillsborough that brought New Richmond its first league championship in men's basketball since 1976. I want to congratulate Coach Brian McMonigle and last year's team for bringing the league championship back to New Richmond. The fondest memory I have of my soccer coaching career had to be the entire 1994 season. That team was the first, and I think still the only undefeated team in school history, finishing with a record of 12-4. Finally, I would like to thank my family. My mom and dad, who came to many of my games, are smiling down tonight, and I know that they are proud of this accomplishment. I think my dad came to the games not to see me coach, but to hear Mr. John Hale sing the national anthem. Oh, he loved listening to Mr. Hale sing the national anthem. To sit next to Mr. and Mrs. Bird and talk to them throughout the games and to watch the players play their hardest. They enjoyed each and every one of these experiences. When I was in high school and I would come home frustrated and upset, I had gotten into the game or I hadn't played as much as I would have liked, my mom would always console me. But my dad would always say, it's okay, one day you're going to be the coach. I believe my dad knew that I was watching and learning from my high school coaches so that one day I truly would be a coach. I also want to thank my family that is here tonight to support me. My sister Peggy Bimschlager, we'll spell that later, and her husband Dave, They flew all the way in from Florida just for the ceremony. Well, they actually live here in Cincinnati. They were just flying back from they just have to drive to Montgomery now. Kind of want to talk about a little bit of our athletic history, but Peggy was an outstanding swimmer, and her husband Dave actually pitched for the Miami University Redskins at that time, Red Hawks now. I also want to thank my taller, smarter, better-looking brother, Don. Okay, maybe smarter, better-looking. He pushed me to be a better person, athlete, and educator because he was all of these, and I always looked up to him for inspiration. My sister Ruth, her husband Kevin, and their daughter Kaylee also came in for the banquet. Ruth is definitely the best athlete in our family, as even at her age, am I allowed to reveal how old you are?
Sure.
No. Because I don't know how old I am. No. But she is still playing soccer at 55. Oh, sorry. With women half her age, and she beats them. She plays 3 nights a week of indoor and like 4 nights outdoor and goes to tournaments. It's something unbelievable. But Ruth and Kevin both played college soccer at Miami, and Kaylee is by far my favorite niece that is here tonight. She's also my only niece that is here tonight. I have 8 nieces. So. My final comments are saved for the loves of my life, Hannah and Pam. On this date, January 31st, 18 years, 7 hours, and, sorry, 1 minute ago, God blessed Pam and I with the most wonderful gift we could have ever imagined, our beautiful daughter, Hannah. Hannah's birth did cause me to miss a game at Loveland that night, which we lost 70-64, so that should not count against my career coaching record. Hannah, you're 0-1. I would have missed all of my games if it meant we were given the gift of Hannah. But in the blink of an eye, she has gone from the newborn laying in her pumpkin seat in the bleachers at our games to the wonderful high school senior who is now choosing which college to attend. Her mom and I are extremely proud of her. We are extremely proud of the beautiful young lady that she has become. Finally, my wife Pam, we've been together for 35 years. We started dating in kindergarten. She was Mrs. Coach to most, Mom Moon to others. She is by far the strongest, most courageous, most beautiful woman I have ever known. My greatest strength as a coach was probably the support that she gave me and my soccer and basketball players during my coaching career. Without that love and support, I would never have been able to coach for 20 years. She always called my players my boys, her boys, and spent many nights preparing lasagna for pregame meals for her boys. Thank you to each and every one of my soccer and basketball players, because without you, I definitely would not be here tonight, both humbled to be included in the New Richmond Sports Hall of Fame. I truly love each and every one of you, and I'm proud of the outstanding men that you have become. I treasure the memories of the practices, games, celebrations, and the many great times that we got to spend together. Thank you.
Next up, presenting for Donnie Morrison, Mr. Jim Robinson.
Okay, I'm the last one here, but I've been hearing a lot of thank yous and, for 45 minutes here, and I really think that we all need to thank this guy right here. Without him, I mean, this Hall of Fame that we see today would be nowhere like this. I know the last time I did this, we didn't have the dinner. It wasn't anything like this, but it's just been first class, and I know it's been this way for about 7 years, but I think Mr. Foote really deserves a round of applause for putting his whole Okay, I'm here to introduce Donnie Morrison. And a lot of you, I'm sure, don't remember Donnie. but we're kind of celebrating a 30-year anniversary here. And Donnie was a part of a baseball team that we won a district championship back in 1985. It was the school's first district championship in baseball. And it just has gone on, I think, to prove that this team was probably, I still think, maybe the best team that this school's ever had. There was some incredible records set, team batting average of .390, along with a lot of individual records, and I know there's been a lot of good teams and a lot of good players, but you know, this was just a special group. And Donnie, you know, he was the kind of player that could just about play any position, and I started thinking, what am I going to say about him, and you know, and where do I go with this? He really did so many different things, and so I started talking to some people, and I was getting things back like, well, he was a real competitor. You know, he would refuse to lose. I remember that about him, where I had some people tell me that, you know, he was the most liked player on the team. He had no enemies. Every single player on that team just about said Donnie was their favorite guy on the team. And he was just the leader. He really was. He just made us go that year, and just went on to do some outstanding things. But one of the things that he did was he started his senior year here, and he was a part of a no-hitter right off the bat, first game. And we were at Felicity. We had about 3 snow delays, and there was 3 pitchers that game, and they ended up, he along with Kirk Willis and John Workman pitched no-hitter. And I thought, hey, this guy, you know, this team looks pretty good. You know, this might be a special group of guys. And it was my first year of coaching baseball here. And as we went along, I remember we went to Turpin, and Jeff Zink over here was the assistant coach that year with us. And there was a coach there by the name of John Basiliga. And after the game, he pulled us aside. I don't know if you remember this, but he said, you guys may not know this, but you got a special group of guys that you could play with anybody in the city. And we started to see that. We started to see how special this group was. And as we went along, they just got better and better, and they proved to be a pretty good team, along with just not only, you know, winning league, but then we got to the district, you know, championship, and we thought, well, this is the way we're going to prove ourselves. So we were supposed to play Wyoming, and Wyoming had a big left-hander. Was probably, they thought, maybe the best pitcher in the city at that time, and you could only pitch 10 innings in 3 days, and they had played 2 days before, and so this kid was down to 3 innings. And what happened was we had no umpires show up, and we were just waiting and waiting, trying to get these umpires, and we did everything we could, and the game actually got canceled, and we had to move it, and then this kid came back, and we knew we were in for a long day. And it was going to be, you know, a game where he could pitch unlimited, well, 10 innings if need be. But Donnie, you know, didn't let that bother us. And Donnie went out and actually threw a no-hitter in that district final game. And we won 17-0, if I recall. And this left-hander, you know, was really good. But when I saw that, I knew then how special this group was. And before that, just getting to that district championship game, we had won a game, and then we played Hamilton-Baden. And again, you know, we had not 2 good pitchers, but we really had that 3rd good pitcher. And we had a kid named John Workman, and we had Kirk Willis. And I think that's what made that team so special. A lot of times today, you know, schools will have one great kid, and then you got to play the next day or the next day, and they don't get to pitch. But we had three guys, and they were all good. They really were. But Donnie was the leader, you know, and then during that Hamilton-Baden game, that was the one that we almost lost. And you know, he just didn't have it that day. And you know, but the thing was, we kept hitting as much as they did, and I can't remember the score, but it was double digits when it was over. And Donnie pitched. We brought John Workman in, and he couldn't hold him. I brought Kirk Willis in. He couldn't hold him. I thought, I don't know what we're going to do here. We're out of pitchers. I don't, you know. And we were still, if I recall, about the 5th inning. And so I thought, you know, Donnie, the competitor that he is, I thought, we got to go back to him and bring him in. And so at that time, he was out there, and I just brought him back. I said, you're coming back to pitch. And he did, and he came in and shut them down, and was also a big leader in a couple rallies, and we ended up beating that team, which I thought was probably the best team we played all through there. And so, he just proved time and time again, how good he really was. But he went on to win 11 games that year, and at the time that was a school record, and he went on to be first team all-league, he was all-city, and even became all-state. And I remember back then when you were an all-city player here, we used to have an all-star game, and that all-star game was played at Riverfront Stadium. And it was the first time, and so Donnie, along with Brian Benzinger, who's here, those two both were all-city players, all first-team league, and they got to play in that game at Riverfront. And they treated it just like a major league game. The guys got to go down early. I mean, they took batting practice. It was first class all the way. And then Donnie was the starting pitcher for our team. And I actually got to coach in that game. And so Donnie was the starting pitcher. And I remember we go out there, the first pitch, we're ready to go. And the first pitch goes over everybody's head. And that backstop, I think, was about 20 feet high or so. And he did hit the backstop. And I knew, here this kid was. He was like this, And but he settled right down, and no problems after that. And they just had fun, though. They really did. They had fun in that game. But he was outstanding. This team he was a part of, they were just a special group, like I was saying. And there was a rule kind of here that we were never allowed to practice on Sundays back then. But and I told those guys, I said, we cannot practice on Sundays. We're not. These guys would practice 5-6 hours a day if we could. I mean, they couldn't get enough of it. And I just lived about 2 miles down the road at that time, and a lot of times we'd be at home, and my wife would go over and open the door, and there would be Donnie or there would be Brian, and they would say, Coach, just give us the baseballs. Just go out there, give us the baseballs, give us a bat bag, and we're going to go practice. We know we're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to be there, but just give us the stuff. And so there'd be times I'd go out there and just open up my car in the trunk, give them the things, and they'd go out here and they would have a practice on their own. And that's just the group that they were. But Donnie was a leader there, and he's the one that made a lot of that happen. And like I said, he just did a lot of things besides, that no-hitter. I'm sure that was the highlight of his career by far. But just lots of things that I can't say here with this group, things that happened on that team. But it was, you know how baseball players are. Unlike all the rest of the athletes, how they spit, scratch, and that's the way these guys are. And so they were characters. It got to be times where I'd go home and my wife, she'd say, well, how'd you do tonight? And I'd say, well, we won. And she goes, no, I'm not talking about did you win or lose. I'm talking about how did you guys make it back home? Did anybody get in trouble? Is everything okay for tomorrow? And it was a group. I know I was talking to Jeff Zink the other day. He said he remembers, we would get on the bus after a game, and Donnie was a big leader. He thought he was a singer. He thought he could really sing. And so he liked to sing Born in the USA. And they would get on that bus, and here we would start back home, and this bus would start rocking. And I mean, they would sing as loud as they could sing, and this bus would be back and forth going down the road. And I know the bus drivers didn't think a lot of us, but he did a lot. That's just a couple of things I can say about you. But to be honest, he's just an outstanding young man. I thought so much of him when he was here. He played JV basketball for me. I was coaching basketball back then when I first came here, and he played JV basketball. Just a competitor, like somebody that's that's the way I remember him. And he was very fast, very quick in basketball. He ran cross country. He could just about do anything he wanted to do. He could play any sport. In baseball, I mean, he could play any position. He would have been one of the best catchers in the city. We just had so many good players, and I could put him anywhere. There was a position, somebody was hurt, somebody didn't feel well. I mean, Donnie was the guy, you know, we put him wherever we wanted. But, you know, we always felt better when he was on the mound because that was his real position. And he's just an outstanding young man. This is really very deserving tonight, and it's real long overdue if you ask me. I mean, he should have been here a long time ago, but there's a lot of good players that's played here in the past, and we've had a lot of good baseball teams and a lot of good players, and I'm sure there's a lot more that need to be nominated and need to be here because, you know, this school's got a great baseball tradition. But at this time, I'd just like to let him come up. I don't know if he's going to say a whole lot, but let him come up and talk a little bit here. Donnie Morrison.
The mark of a great athlete is how they perform in crucial situations. No one performed better than Donnie Morrison when he took the mound in the spring of 1985 and pitched a no-hitter against Wyoming to give New Richmond High School his first district championship in baseball. On days when he didn't have his best on the mound, Morrison would rise to the challenge. Early in the 1985 tournament against Hamilton Baden, Morrison struggled and Coach Jim Robinson was forced to remove him early in the game. When the succeeding relief pitchers couldn't hold Baden and we saw our season slipping away, I played a hunch that Donnie would rise to the challenge and brought him back in, said Robinson. Morrison not only shut down Baden the rest of the way, but he also led a series of two-out rallies that lifted the Lions past Baden. Besides his no-hitter, Morrison's outstanding accomplishments included a school record 11 wins in 1985 and a senior year batting average of .521 with 50 hits and 37 runs batted in. He ranks in the top 10 in career pitching with 15 wins, a .224 ERA, and 108 strikeouts in career hitting with 81 hits, 31 stolen bases, 32 walks, and 121 total bases. He was selected to first team All-League, All-County, All-City, and All-State. Donnie also played basketball and was an outstanding cross-country runner for the Lions. It's my privilege to give to you Donnie Morrison for induction into the 2015 New Richmond Sports Hall of Fame.
Jim, of course, Coach Robinson told all those lies about us, but none of that stuff was true. Just like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for having this thing. You know, not much of a talker, so I'd like to thank them for having this. I'd like to thank my parents for being there all those years, getting me back and forth to the daggone games and stuff, you know. Coaches, of course, you know, crazy coaches. We had some fun, and we also got in a little bit of trouble, but that's okay. Yeah, so I'd like to thank the school for, you know, just for everything that they do. I'd like to thank my family, my wife, my kids, my new little kid there, Cowboy. But I'd like to say it'd be awesome. Probably one of the best teams I think I've ever played on. I think we could put the whole daggum team here together, make it a Hall of Fame team. You know, we were that good. You know, a few mishaps here and there, but could have made it a little different. But as they say, that happens. So, yeah, I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks for this, and it's a privilege and an honor to be in a Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Please make sure, one of the things that happens is a lot of people will say, well, how come this person or that person is not in the Hall of Fame? Well, the reason is because no one's nominated them. So please make sure that you nominate people that you know. It's really difficult. You know, I'm still kind of a rookie at New Richmond for me to know everybody that should be in. And we try to do the best that we can. We got a great committee from a lot of years, you know, from back to forward. And so please help us get worthy people into the Hall of Fame too, because you got a great Hall of Fame. You got 97 people in it, and you've just got an unbelievable Hall of Fame here at New Richmond. I hope you realize that. We try to do the best we can with records. There's records sometimes, coaches leave and take records if we can't get them back and those type of things, but we try to do the best that we can. Next year, the Hall of Fame will be on January 9th, and one of the reasons we're going to do that is because we get to play Marymount, and Doug Ast is one of the assistant coaches at Marymount, so we're going to get a chance to play them here. Please also take the planners in front of you. Take those home because they are not going to the Foothouse. So please make sure that you take all those home with you and enjoy them. When I sit around and think about the Hall of Fame and look at it, it is phenomenal to me the number of brothers or father-son combinations, those type of things that are in your Hall of Fame, or mother-daughters that's going to be happening as more and more years go through because of, female athletes got a late start because of the way things were until Title IX and all that. But when I look through there and see that, the phenomena of having, I've had a chance to put in 3 McMonigle brothers. And I've got a chance to put in 2 Duncan brothers. I don't know if you understand how phenomenal that is. There's not a lot of schools that have that. And it's funny because Mr. Calder said the same thing about the McMonigle parents should probably be in the Hall of Fame. Joe Moon said the exact same phrase to me out there in the gym. And I will always tell the story that when I recruited Brian McMonigle to play, after a while I got bored with him and I just wanted to talk to Gail all the time. Yeah. And I would call the house and say, "Is Gail there?" Yeah. Brian was boring. I'd much rather talk to her. But it's just, it's phenomenal to me to see the number of people that are related in that Hall of Fame. And you guys have so much going on here at New Richmond. You're truly blessed, and I'm blessed to be a part of that. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that. One more time, please recognize our 2015 inductees into the New Richmond High School.